prone pilot lies on his stomach rather than seated in a normal, upright position. During World War II, it was suggested that a pilot in the prone position might be more effective in some kinds of high-speed aircraft because it would permit the pilot to withstand a greater g-force in the upward and downward direction with respect to the plane. The fuselage could also be made shallower and therefore have reduced weight and drag. Many prototypes were built or converted to test this idea. The research in this area was finally entrusted to DWL, the Deutsche Versuchsanstalt für Luftfahrt, or the German Research Institute for Aviation. This was the central research and development facility for aviation, which was subordinated to Göring's Ministry of Aviation from 1934. During the first experiments, it turned out that the pilot, while in a sitting position, is able to tolerate overloads up to 6G, provided that the time of exposure to the loads does not exceed 4 seconds. However, in the case of longer overloads, everything can be fatal. At the same time, development aviation forced to look for ways to overcome overloads of about 10G. The solution was to move the pilot to a prone position. In 1937, the actual work began to create an aircraft to try out this new theory. The machine was given the designation B-9 as well as its own name, Berlin. But the aircraft construction was very slow. The first and only B-9 test prototype was prepared only in the spring of 1943. Later, the B-9 was transferred to the Rechlin Air Base for test flights. The appearance of this plane was pretty rough, but after all, it did not require the purity of forms. The angular fuselage of the B-9 was welded from steel tubes and sheeted in canvas. The B-9 design could withstand overloads up to 12G. In practical terms, this means that the pilot, lying prone, can significantly reduce the radius of his turns and pull-out gradients. For example, a low-flying aircraft moving at a speed of 700 km per hour needs approximately 700 meters at 5G to make a complete turn. The pilot will only be able to take this acceleration for 4 to 5 seconds. With the pilot lying prone and flying at the same speed, acceleration can be comfortably increased to 10G, whilst the turn radius can be reduced to only 390 meters. In a dogfight, the pilot flying the airplane with the smallest turn radius easily outmaneuvers his opponent and brings himself into a superior fighting position. Another important advantage of the prone position is that the pilot presents the smallest possible target section, so reducing the amount of armor plating or shielding to a minimum. In August of 1943, the B-9 was presented to the German Air Force. By November of 1943, 30 pilots had flown and evaluated the airplane. Only one accident occurred during the entire test program. This happened when a pilot made an error that may have ended up in an aborted takeoff. The damage was repaired within a few weeks. Flight tests with the B-9 continued until early 1944, with the results of the experiment were used during the design of some new German aircraft. The first was the Blom und Voss BV-40, a glider fighter designed to attack Allied bomber formations during the time of the bombing raids over Germany. In order to minimize its cross-section as a target for the rear gunner, the pilot would lie in prone position and there would be no engine. It would be released above the bomber formation and approach it in a high-speed dive. As the design evolved, it became the smallest glider that could accommodate an armored cockpit and 2 cannons with limited ammunition. The BV-40 was to be towed by a fighter to operational altitude and released above the Allied bomber combat box. Once released, it would dive down at a sharp angle towards the enemy bomber fleet. During its very short attack time, the BV-40 would fire its weapons, then glide back to Earth. The BV-40 first flew in late May of 1944, and several prototypes were completed and flown towed behind the German fighter. It was found that the craft could reach 470 km per hour, and it was thought to have the potential to go even faster. All in all, 7 aircraft were completed and 5 of them flown, but the whole project was cancelled in late 1944. The second aircraft was the Henschel HS-132, a jet dive bomber which featured a top-mounted BMW 003 jet engine, identical in terms of make and position to the power plant used by the Heinkel 162 jet fighter. Despite the similarity of appearance, the HS-132 was meant for dive bombing and ground attack, and was to make extensive use of non-strategic materials, notably in the wings, which were of wooden construction. The basic model carried one 500 kg bomb, and it had no other armament. It was to begin its attack in a shallow dive, and after reaching a speed of 900 km per hour, the pilot would toss the bomb at the target using a simple computerized sight and then climb back out of range. The aircraft was designed to withstand 12 G during the pullout. The special bomb sight was not delivered in time to be fitted to the aircraft. Later, it was hoped that by the time the aircraft became available, the Panzer Blitz anti-tank missile would be in production and available for use. A contract for 6 prototypes was approved in May of 1944, and the construction began in March of 1945. But the Red Army occupied the factory just as the first HS-132 was nearing flight testing in April of 1945. Many modern hang gliders were developed since the end of the war, like the Gloster Meteor F-8 prone pilot, which would typically offer a prone position during flight, with the pilot lowering their legs and standing upright only when taking off or landing. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and to make sure you don't miss my future work, please make sure you are subscribed to my channel and press the bell notification button. Thank you, and see you in the next video.